Hey artists, I wanted to show you a work of art that I've created and how I use the studio habits that artists all do to create my own work of art. So we have 8 studio habits, starting number 1, develop craft. Okay, this is the fun part. This is all about getting used to your materials. So I have done lots of practice. Develop craft. Artists learn how to use and care for tools, materials, and workspace because they want to practice and improve skills. Tools and materials are expensive. It is their responsibility to the earth, and they love making art. Here's one of my old sketchbooks. You can see I sometimes do my watercolor right in there, colored pencils, sometimes just pencil. And this is because I love art. You can see I design my weavings that I'm gonna do and the colors where the tassels are gonna go. So I kind of just put everything in here, and this is me getting good with watercolors, getting good at drawing. These are kind of practice compositions for real paintings that I've done. Colors and yeah. So, you gotta practice. Develop your craft. Learn how to use your tools. Learn what materials you love. Practice, practice. Envision. Artists use their imagination and plan by thinking about what they want to make, talking through the process with another artist, trying to see it in their mind, and sketching a plan. In my sketchbook, I plan out the idea that I had envisioned in my head, the subject matter, who it is, what it is, and the composition, where things are going to be on the page. So I knew that I wanted a stack of books with my mother sitting on the top. I knew I wanted it to look like she was so high up that she had to lean over to still be in the picture. And instead of having her lean this way, I had her lean in so that your eye is drawn up and over. You see the beautiful butterflies, and this corner line draws your eye down to where the crayon is sitting, and the butterfly is drawn on the wall like a rascally little creative kid would. Okay, so I sketch it out. Observe. Artists look closely at the world around them because they see things in a new way, they seek the beauty in ordinary things, and they notice details. I was looking closely at this beautiful painting that my mom created of butterflies, and so I was using the shapes, the patterns on the wings, the colors to be inspired in my own work, and looking really closely at this piece, as well as I I did my own little pose on a stack of books on top of my counter to figure out how the anatomy of the body would work in this position so that I could draw it accurately in my painting. Reflect. Artists think and talk about their own ideas as well as others' ideas by asking questions, answering questions, explaining and describing, and evaluating self and others. Before I began this painting, I talked to 3 of my friends that are what I call my art girls. They studied design and art in college too, and I showed them this practice run. I showed them the idea of my mom in the books. I showed them the colors that I was thinking of, explained that I wanted some blues and greens, and then some oranges and reds. I even have lots of orange hues in the brown wood here because those are opposites on the color wheel. So it was really important to talk through my ideas with those other artists. They asked me some really good questions, and I asked them questions too. Like, they even suggested that I do the butterflies much smaller so that it really falls back into the background. There's more of a contrast with tiny butterflies compared to the size of these other objects then. And I love kind of evaluating myself and having others give me some good ideas too. Stretch and explore. Artists experiment, take risks, and try new ideas by problem solving, inventing and innovating, making things that are different, and transforming materials. This work of art was definitely stretching me as an artist. Here's the sketch. I started with a pencil first, so this is what the paper looked like before I added the paint. I sketched it out with pencil, and let me tell you, there was lots of problem solving, lots of erasing, and making things different as I went. I realized certain things about colors and added different separation with the butterflies and the books. So this was a big one. I've never painted this much detail in a wallpaper pattern before. And that led to engage and persist. Artists find ideas that inspire and motivate them to create a finished work of art, even when it is hard, when they make mistakes, and when they are not sure. There were moments where I needed to keep going even when it was hard. So moments when I got frustrated from different mistakes in there, I would take a break. I would set it aside for a couple days or sometimes a couple weeks and come back to it when I felt ready with my creative spirit and a lot of attention to detail. And I would try again and keep going, even when it was tedious and frustrating. Understand art world. Artists learn about their community and the art world through studying the artwork of other artists, peers, and masters, exploring artwork from other cultures, observing art throughout history, and working with other artists. It's important for me when I speak about my work to other students or artists or adults that I know that I'm not the first one to do portraits. I'm not the first one to paint books. I'm not the first one to do patterns and wallpapers, images of rooms. There are so many artists that have gone before me that have worked in history, and even artists that are working now that do portraits and patterns using symbols and the things that I'm using. So I need to be aware and explore those other artworks and know what's going on and how I fit into the bigger picture of being an artist in a community of artists, which is the coolest thing. Because everyone's stories matter. No one has a story like mine, and these stories help us relate to one another. Art is all about expression. Artists show themselves through their artwork, including their feelings and emotions, personal experiences, what they see and remember, their imagination and dreams, and what interests and excites them. This work of art really shows my personal experiences. It's my own mom, really showing the love that I have for her and what I remember and think of when I think of my mom. So I for sure think of books and how much she loves to read. And she would read to me as a little girl. I would see her reading and being in book clubs and how much joy that gave her. So she passed on that love of reading to me. And I love to read now too. Reading has allowed me to first become an art teacher that was part of my dream and goal. But also, now that I am an art teacher, I still love to read because it allows me to learn about history and culture and other people's stories, which I wouldn't know just based on my life here in Minnesota. And sometimes I love to read fantasy books, and that's all about imaginary things and just kind of opens up your imagination, and the sky's the limit with books. You can go anywhere and travel the world with books. So I love that part. And also the butterflies. I always think of my mom and her mom too, my grandmother, when I look at butterflies. And so I wanted to include that as the wallpaper. I thought the way that they have wings, and I could start to show them becoming free, really shows that she gave me all that I needed to give me my own wings and allow me to achieve the dreams that I dreamed. And lastly, there's a little red crayon down here. My mom is a graphic designer, and she taught me the love of art, drawing, painting, going to art museums together. So I did that fun little scribble of a butterfly over there, just like a kid might draw on the wall, to represent how much she really gave me that love of art. Those were examples of the ways that I use the studio habits in my own process as an artist. And it's actually not very normal to show all 8 in one work of art. It's okay that maybe a drawing you did is really just focused on developing craft. You are learning from a drawing video or a book or a class, and you're practicing to get good at drawing a realistic person or animal. That's great. And then maybe you realize, okay, so that was only one of the studio habits. How can I also stretch and explore and take new risks with new things? Or how can I envision and use my imagination to add creativity to a work of art? So I'd love to know what your strengths are in our studio habits and what your weaknesses are. What are areas that you'd like to grow as an artist? Because we have lots and lots of time to practice, your whole lives, in fact. I am still practicing the studio habits.